everyone and welcome to Squidly Bits, our second channel where we do quicker, more personal videos. And today, again, is gonna be an inspiration day because today I'm going to showcase my very first ever Warhammer army that was like painted. Let's go back to 2017. It was December and I had been so stressed for the entire year, like doing my work stuff. And I was like, I need a new hobby. And I remembered that I loved playing Warhammer as a kid. I was like, I'm gonna start playing again. So I reached out to a friend and he was like, you can play with Sylvaneth. They're almost like wood elves that you had when you were a kid. I did. So I started collecting Sylvaneth and this is my tree army. So I painted kind of my first minis, it would be around 2018, because I started out by building about one of these start collecting kits where you got a Tree Lord, Kurnoth Hunters, and 10 Dryads, I think was in the pack. Oh yeah, and this little branch witch, I think it's called. And I think this one was actually the first mini that I painted, but I did do a couple of additions to her. Tried copying the box art, following the guide on the back of the box, and it just looked terrible because they were like, use this wash, use this, and it's like, okay, washes kind of sucks. So I stopped using that, and then I got a little bit better. And I got so excited about this that I started bringing my minis to work. And I would be sitting on lunch breaks and painting. When I started out, I was like, the first 10 Dryads, I was like, I'm never gonna paint a Dryad again. And then I realized, I'm a dirty power gamer. And in Sylvaneth, back then, you would summon Dryads. So I painted 80 more Dryads during that year. When I started with this army, I was kind of on a tight budget. Like I did not have a ton of money. A lot of the things, like either I would wish for stuff for Christmas, so I got this one from my lovely wife for Christmas that year. Mi corazón no te quiere ver, pero mi cama te quiere tener. Come on, baby, dame placer. I got the gift card from my mother-in-law and ended up buying a Lariel shortly thereafter and just built them up and then painted them. And I think it took me about half a year to like be able to paint all the details on these two minis because I was like, I couldn't get the honeycombs to look good. I couldn't get a Lariat to look good. And it took a lot of time, but eventually, after I think it took like 9 months total, I had the whole army painted to like at least a playable level and entered my first Warhammer tournament. And surprisingly, I actually brought home best in show. And I think that kind of fucked me up because after that I was like, this is my life now. I'm gonna paint Warhammer for the rest of my life. I think I only bought 10 Dryads new and the rest is just secondhand stuff. To get the best prices, I got this Tree Lord without, he didn't have a chest piece. So I got him for like 10 bucks because of that. So I had to like rebuild, so his chest is another Tree Lord's head, and then I added branches and a tombstone, and then just added a ton of flock and stuff just to make him look somewhat decent. Back then, people didn't really do a ton of cool bases. Sure, for Golden Demon, but not for armies, but I always felt like it was so stupid just to put the minis on like the base and then put a couple of rocks on the side. So I spent a lot of time like finding cool basing materials and like reposing them so they would feel like they're doing something unique. Back in the days, if you played with Sylvaneth, you had to have these wildwood tree bases. The weird thing is, if you wanted to play a good Sylvaneth army, you couldn't just use one. You needed to have a ton. And they cost so much money. I think one of these was like $29 back then. You could have up to 3 of these bases for one spell. And then you probably wanted to have like 3 or 4. So if you wanted to be able to win games, you needed to have like 12 of these. So I bought 3 of them second hand. And then like to save money, I had these like cut out MDF boards and just took like basing bits and bark and shit. And these days the trees look a little bit better. Now you have just these ones. So you just add 3 of these and then you have like a Sylvaneth tree dungeon. And it was a pain in the ass, like if you were moving on the gaming table. So I'm going in here with my tree lord. Then it's like, no, you can't because they're getting stuck in the fucking trees. And it was such a pain in the ass to play with. I have no idea how many points these are now, but I think because the dryads are so much more expensive now in points and you don't summon them the same way. I think if you just buy them as they are, I think it's around 3,500 points built maybe. So the idea with the color scheme I thought was kind of simple. So I wanted to make them brown, obviously because they're trees. And so I painted the most, like the base coat of them brown. And then I highlighted with like reddish brown tones to the faces and stuff, so they have a little bit more the warmer tree tone. And then for all of the branches on their backs, I went with green. This is like a nice complement. It feels very natural, obviously, to have green parts on trees. But I still felt like they were kind of boring, so I added fiery fingers. That was one because I bought like an airbrush after I'd painted for half a year. And that was like a saving grace because it just made the army pop a little bit more, and I like learned how to do the glow on all the tree bits and on the hands and all of that kind of stuff. Technically, it's kind of like, by today's standard, it is kind of a mid-army. But back then, because the bases were so unique, I had built like a display board with this thing in the back. It really stood out and people really loved the Lariel base. And speaking of Lariel, let's hop on to that lady. Do you guys remember Gary Sparks? Yeah, that guy from the video with the insane world's biggest miniature collection. Well, it turns out Gary is a nerd and isn't only about miniatures, because he's actually a part owner of this new game studio called Fateless. And the team behind it, well, it's some of my personal mobile game YouTube creators, such as Hell Hades and a bunch of other RPG nerds. Pretty much people who grew up loving squad RPGs and decided that they wanted to build the game that they and their audience would love to play themselves. The game is called Godforge, a squad-based hero collector RPG where legends and mythologies from across the world battle each other out in epic freaking love triangles. Battles, I mean. Think battling Zeus versus Anubis versus Thor in a pretty epic battle. There's a cool thing because they've asked me and Lucas to do a really cool collaboration for the game and the players, so that people that try out the beta have a chance to maybe get something pretty insane that Lucas and I will be doing. Honestly, you do not want to miss this, so sign up for the beta, try out the game, and who knows, there might be a lot more cool Godforge shit coming on Squidmar channels in the future. But now, let me go back to showing you my first Age of Sigmar army. So this one was my kind of magnum opus the first year of painting. It actually won like a Games Workshop Miniature of the Month competition on their Instagram or Facebook page, I can't really remember. But that was like also another one of these moments where it's like, oh shit, people actually think that I can paint decently. And like 3 years after that, they actually published the images in a White Dwarf, which was, it's the only time I've been in White Dwarf. But the idea with this one was that I had like a dungeon in here with like the forest crystals and she's guarding that. I magnetized her because I was a little bit afraid of breaking her in transit. But she did take me so much time to paint, you have no freaking idea. Painting this mini as a beginner, like that was a freaking nightmare. But I powered through and I had a finished army. And then of course we have the wonderful Beltanos, which is, I would say, probably one of my biggest disappointments from Games Workshop lately. This one came out like a year and a half ago, but he's supposed to be like Orion from the Wood Elves, which was my favorite miniature as a kid. Like, it was such a cool mini with the big muscles, and like as a 13-year-old, you freaking loved that. And then they came out and they had made him into a dryad. I'm like, no, I want elves. So we had a sculptor just design a new upper torso for me. So he still has the dryad legs, but now he looks like an elf. He has the antlers on the head. He's got the horn that Orion has and the spear of Kurnoth that Orion has as well. So I think I'm really happy with it. The absolute last thing that I painted that's Sylvaneth related was the Underworld's warband. And these ones do not fit in with the army at all, but they are part of the same race, I guess. But I've done them as part of, like, they're in a dungeon, like a underwater cavern. They have this like blue atmosphere glow on them, and color-wise they don't fit at all, but they're kind of fun to see anyway. We do have a ton of more armies. I think I have like 4 more armies. Lucas probably have 4 more armies as well. If you want to see more of these videos, smash like! We released a paint set together with Vallejo, and all the tutorials we make on this channel are made with only these paints. So if you want an easy way to learn, go check out those paints, as well as our awesome brand new dragon, Strak Nightmare Incarnate, a plastic kit, the same way that Games Workshop make their minis, but we've made them. So you should check it out. I guess that's it, people. Subscribe if you eat. Bye.